Today we're going to talk about sending videos, images, and other visuals from one computer to multiple screens at once. It's awesome, easy, and not nearly as expensive as you might think. Roll the music. Visibox is a Mac and Windows application that allows performers to control videos, images, cameras, and backing tracks during their performances using MIDI devices such as foot pedals, drum controllers, keyboard or pad triggers, an Elgato Stream Deck, or just the computer keyboard and mouse. We've got other videos on our channel that delve into other aspects of Visibox, so check those out if you want to know more. Visibox has a few features that will make it easier to do the things I'm talking about in this video, but there will probably be helpful information here even if you're using another setup. What I'm talking about today is moving beyond a common presentation setup, which usually consists of one or two screens. Maybe you've got a laptop computer and some sort of external screen, a video projector, a television, or another type of screen that gets shown to your audience. The video or other content goes full screen, and then your laptop screen has a controller that controls the content for the viewers. This is how presentation software like PowerPoint or Keynote works. And it's also how Visibox works. However, what if you've got a stage setup where you want projection screens on either side of the stage? Or you've got an art gallery and you want to create an installation where all four walls of the room are showing video projections that encompass the visitors in an environment. Maybe you want to create a stage setup where there's an 85-inch television mounted vertically on a stand next to each of the four performers. Incidentally, I've seen 85-inch TVs on sale for $800 or less. That picture is over 6 feet tall, that's nearly 2 meters, again we've got them mounted vertically, and 3.5 feet or about 1 meter wide. You could stack video projectors, you could take more than 2 televisions and put them horizontally or vertically. Anyways, my point is there's any number of different ways to arrange the displays on stage. The first question you want to answer is, do I want the same content on all of these different screens? If you want the same videos, images, or other visuals to appear at the same time on all of your screens, things are much easier. Maybe you've got screens on either side of the stage and you simply want to make sure the audience can see what's happening from wherever they are. In this case, my recommendation is to get a video splitter. You can pick up a 1-input, 2-output HDMI splitter on Amazon for about $20. You can find higher quality splitters with more outputs at a wide variety of price points, but the concept is the same. Plug your computer into the splitter, plug the splitter into your displays. These can be televisions, projectors, or even a combination. The computer sees the splitter as a single display. The signal gets sent to all of the displays at once. Easy. Let me show you one of these. I've got a splitter right here. Here's a cheap one, made by REI, no relation. It's a 1-input, 2-output splitter. I think it cost me $18 on Amazon. Comes with a little power supply here that uses a micro USB. 1 input, 2 outputs. So you can split a signal. You can get 1 input, 4 outputs, 1 input, 8 outputs. Even more, you could probably even daisy chain them together. Like I said, if you want to put the same thing on all the screens, super easy. That's a good way to go. But what if you want the same content on different screens? What if you want the screens to act together as one large display? Maybe you've got screens on either side of the stage, and we want the fish to swim from one screen to the other. Or we want to create a tower-like installation at the front of our place of worship with 4 televisions stacked on top of each other, acting like one vertical screen. There are lots of ways of doing this. If we've got a multi-million-dollar budget, we'd probably have a dedicated video production team with video switchers and all sorts of expensive production equipment. However, I'm going to talk about how to do this cheaply. This is a video wall controller. It acts similar to an HDMI splitter. It has one HDMI input, and this one has 4 HDMI outputs. However, these often have additional controls, and they might even come with a remote control, as this one did. Instead of just mirroring the 1 input to the 4 outputs, this device lets you span the input image across multiple outputs. These also come at a variety of price points. In the past, these were very pricey, but over the past few years, inexpensive video wall controllers have started showing up on sites like Amazon. I got this one for around $100 and it works fine. It doesn't even really have a brand name on it. I'll put a link below into the Amazon page where I got it. I think it was less than $100 and it works fine, works great. It's got a 4K input and each of the outputs can be up to 1080p. Video wall controllers are called video wall controllers because they were originally designed for controlling video walls, like you might see at a mall or a sports bar or at NASA. This is where we take 4 or 9 LCD TVs and mount them together in a grid to make one giant screen. Usually there are lines through it representing the bezels of each TV. You can see lines between my TVs here. That's the bezels. I also haven't done a very good job of pushing them right close together. However, video wall controllers can be used with video projectors or other displays, and they can be used with non-square numbers of displays showing horizontally or vertically, opening up all sorts of interesting options. The caveat with the setup I'm describing is that all of your displays need to use the same aspect ratio, orientation, and probably the same resolution. Behind me, I have 3 50-inch televisions mounted vertically. I picked these up at Best Buy on sale for a little over $200 each. It's not a beautiful setup, it's kind of punk rock, but I wanted to show how accessible these setups can be. Together, this picture is about 6¼ feet wide and about 3½ feet high. That's 1.8 meters wide and about a little over a meter high. The aspect ratio of these 3 TVs mounted this way is 27:16. That's a kind of weird aspect ratio, but I kind of like weird aspect ratios. They can break up your content and make your screens feel less screeny. If you just want to mess with different aspect ratios, Visibox has an option to enforce aspect ratio, which will force an aspect ratio on your project. If you're using a video projector, this can create a nice effect because the black doesn't project, so any letterboxing that might happen as a result of enforcing this aspect ratio just won't get projected out of the projector. So you can create a strip of visuals on stage using just one video projector. But that's not what we're talking about in this video. These inexpensive video wall controllers don't change their input resolution as the resolution and aspect ratio of their effective output changes. The computer sees the device as 4K 16:9, aka the conventional aspect ratio for 4K display. And that works fine if you've got 4 TVs connected in a 2x2 grid. It works if you've got 9 TVs connected in a 3x3 grid. We've still got a 16:9 aspect ratio. But if we connect 2 displays horizontally side by side, the video wall controller is going to stretch the 16:9 image across a 32:9 space. If we turn them on their sides, each display becomes 9:16 instead of 16:9. So 3 of them side by side is 9 times 3, which is 27:16, which is what I've got behind me here. If you're editing your video specifically to interact with these setups, you may want to know these aspect ratios, but Visibox was created to make this stuff easy. So unless you're getting very specific with your content, don't worry about it. We've just added a new feature to Visibox called Video Wall Stretch, or maybe it should be called Video Wall Unstretch, because it will compensate for the stretch that's happening with these odd aspect ratios. I'll get into that in a few minutes. But first, let me show you how you would connect and configure a setup like I've got going on behind me. So, similar to an HDMI splitter, we've got one HDMI input and multiple HDMI outputs. In this case, with this video wall controller, we've got 4. Only got 3 televisions, so I've only got 3 connected in here. These video wall controllers have different modes for the different grids and the different setups that they can do, and basically you can just scroll them. By default, when you turn it on, it's in 1x1 mode, which is actually works pretty similar to the video splitter, but we want 3x1 mode. If I scroll through the different options, that's 2x2 and 1x2, 2x1, 1x3, Let's see what that looks like. Actually, it looks like it's pretty close to what we want, doesn't it? Yeah, it's sideways. Let's see if we can make that work. So we've got it working, but it's sideways. So let's go into the display settings on the Mac here, and we'll select the video wall, which is called macro silicon. I think that's probably the chip that all of these things, all of these video wall controllers coming out of China are using. And I tested this out before, so I know it's gonna be either 90 or 270 is gonna be the right orientation, but 270 is the right one. And now you can see we're getting there, we're getting closer. It's all stretched out horizontally, but if you look in the display setting, it's seeing it as a vertical screen here. And so it's the video wall controller is taking the 9:16 vertical image and stretching it out to this aspect ratio. And so without Visibox, this is where you end up. However, we've got a new function that we've added to Visibox called Video Wall Stretch. And you just go in and you choose the number of rows and columns. We have 1 row and 3 columns of television here. And so once I select that, it reorients to the right aspect ratio. It's still cropping the image some, but you can see the squares are square, and you can see now it's working right. We've got fish and frogs and numbers. We've got monkeys. I like the monkeys. Incidentally, this is the Visibox calibration screen, which is super handy to have. It gives you some color bars, it gives you some black and white gradients, and also helps you to kind of determine the aspect ratio of the displays. You can see we're somewhere between 16:10 and 16:9 here, which is what I was talking about earlier. We've got that, it's 27, whatever I said earlier, I can't remember. 27:16, it's right here on my screen. 27:16. And just like magic, all 3 displays are acting as one. Remember that this is not a conventional aspect ratio. Visibox defaults to covering the space available without black bars. But if your video has content that you don't want to lose, there's a letterbox setting for each individual clip, as well as a default setting for the project as a whole. So you've got a choice there without doing any editing to your videos. However, if you want to do something like this, where each display is addressed differently, then you need to do some video editing. This is a video that I created at this 27:16 aspect ratio. I then created guides to break it up into 3 equal parts, and I cropped the 3 different videos side by side. It takes a bit of work, but now I can control them as one. I've got control and I can re-trigger them all at the same time. They're not doing a whole lot, so it's hard to tell that I'm re-triggering them. I could sync them to the music, and it would feel like the screens were separate, but still in time with each other. It's a little bit counterintuitive to set up 3 videos as one video, but it can save processing resources since the computer only needs to play 1 video. It also means that the 3 screens will be exactly in sync with one another. I should say that in a more complex and higher budget situation, you could run Visibox on multiple computers and control each one separately, but this solution gives you the option of switching between combined images like these fish and isolated images like these animals. Let's look at another configuration through the magic of video editing. Now we've got 2 vertical screens. It still looks pretty good because we're still in 3:1 mode and Visibox is still thinking that there's 3 columns, but what it means is we're not using the full space. We're kind of losing one of the 3. So we need to put the video controller into 2:1 mode. There's an option on this remote to do that. 2:1, which looks pretty close to what we want, but the fish are a little squished. So in Visibox, we also need to now go to the video wall stretch option and say 1 row by 2 columns. And now it should be really good. If we go into calibration mode, it looks square and we're seeing the full space being used. Of course, the thing about a setup like this, obviously you can see, is that it's splitting your content across. So if you separate the screens apart from each other, you want to just sort of think about the content that you're showing. If you show a single subject, let's find a single subject here, their single face is going to be split across 2 screens, which is a little weird. But if you edit the content correctly, you could have a person on each screen. This one kind of has the light shining in the middle of it over here, but you get the idea. And if you show something like these fish, it just looks cool. You get slightly different fish on each screen, but it works. So I edited together these people again. So this footage, or this setup, is a 16 by 9 here, or 9 by 16 and 9 by 16. You add 9 together, and you get 18 by 16 is the aspect ratio of the 2 screens. And so by creating a 9 by 6 or 18 by 16 video, splitting it down the middle, and putting a person on either side, you can get this kind of thing where it feels like you're addressing each screen separately. Or something like this, where you've got the lion on one side and the gazelle on the other side. Or puppies. Gotta love puppies. Let's do it again. I'm going to show you another configuration. I'm going to snap my fingers and we'll do the video editing. So now we've got 2 horizontal screens. This is probably going to be the most common setup for multi-screen presentations. But before I talk about that, let's get the video wall set up. So first of all, we want to make sure that we don't have the screen showing vertical anymore. So in the display settings, I'm going to set it back to standard, and that will stop it from being rotated. We're getting closer. It's still kind of not quite right. And then we want to switch this from 2-1 to 1-2. It's hard. You have to look at the little picture of their setups to understand how to do that best. And then we go into Visibox, and we, under Video Wall Stretch, say we've got 1 row and 2 columns, and put that into calibration mode and see how it looks. And it actually looks good. However, you can see sort of the problem with a configuration like this. Because we've taken our, conventional aspect ratio of video, 16:9, and spread it all the way across, it's going to crop off the top and the bottom of that content to give us enough space because it's stretching out so wide. However, if you've got videos that works for, or if you create videos like this that's designed for, it can be really compelling to kind of see both things happening at once here. We've got our lion and our gazelles. I thought I edited this correctly, but it looks like I didn't quite get it right. But also when you take just big, wide content, that has a lot of detail to it like this, it can be really interesting to spread it out. Of course, again, if you take something that's just a single subject, it's going to end up kind of smushed in and cropped, and it's going to end up kind of cut down the middle in ways that could be awkward. But I really like it for things like this. Let's see. Things like maybe we've got this sunset. That's kind of neat. We split the sun right in the middle. But I like the jellyfish. Yeah, that's good. So many of you will be asking, I've got multiple display outputs on my computer. I've got USB-C, and I can buy a bunch of HDMI dongles. I've got a dongle right here, and connect 4 displays directly to my computer and get 4K resolution out of each one. So let me just say, maybe you can. And maybe that solution will work better for you than this. However, you may find that your computer has a limit on how many displays you can connect. You may find that the processing power required to run all of these displays weighs down your computer and degrades the playback rate on each display. You'll also probably find that it's difficult to span a single window across multiple displays. This is actually impossible on the Mac without some special configuration. And even on Windows, you'll run across a lot of hurdles getting this to work. There are also solutions using multiple computers or specialized computer setups with multiple graphics cards and specialized software. We may even add some multi-display functionality to Visibox in the future. Connecting multiple displays like this creates an even more immersive experience. Heck, you could project on all of the walls and the ceiling to truly surround your audience. We created Visibox to inspire people to create compelling, creative visual experiences. So I'm really excited to see what people can do with this. Visibox has a free 14-day trial. Download for Mac or Windows and try it for yourself.